Nothing engages human emotions, behavior, and perception more than the nature of belief systems. They're much more powerful than most people, paradoxically enough, believe to be true. The word faith is also very important in relationship with beliefs. They're really two different entities. Faith is what you need to begin the project of building a bridge between where you are right now and where you want to go. The importance of faith is the primary message in the film The Matrix. It's the inner knowing that you can do it, whatever that it might be. It's a big thing. It's something that's beyond belief. The entire nature of a belief is always connected to our best intentions about what we consider the truth about the nature of reality. This makes belief systems real to us. As such, they are an important part of the fundament for our inner mental maps, those we use to navigate in our lives, consciously or simply by the nature of habit, unconscious, automatic behavior which regulates how we live our lives. Your unconscious, automatic habits are all within your ability to adjust, regulate, and develop as you see fit. The ability to do so requires an investment in self that usually costs quite a bit of time, money, and effort. There seems to be two mainstream approaches to living life today. The one is plug and play, while the other is plug and pray. There is, however, a third option, and that is to read the directions before you plug in the thing at all. It's a different kind of life. It promotes that cockpit I've talked about before, the one that has all the dials, the meters, the screens, and panels of communication and navigation instruments in relationship to just having an on and off switch for life. Otherwise, you're dangerously close to being associated with what they, the handlers of the earth, call the living dead. They're the ones that get harvested in the maritime courts as a vessel in dry dock in a foreign port. This is how humans have been treated for at least 2,000 years. I suspect many more than that by kings, rulers, despots, and the priesthood of the church throughout the world. There is another side to this story of humanity when it comes to belief systems, religion, and our understanding about the nature of reality. This aspect is concerned not with our institutions that have evolved around the certain spiritual way-showers from our past, but the way-showers or the teachers themselves. It is my personal understanding that the earth has always had access to certain teachers that have chosen to be born with an agenda to lift or educate the people of the planet up to a higher level of understanding. The stories in the Bible about Noah and the flood are not just fantasies or bedtime stories of mortal fortitude, but remnants of actual events that have a geological and extended scientific basis or foundation for understanding. It's taken me many years of research to find the evidential links between certain, but not all, biblical historic references. The evidence seems to suggest that there have been several systemic reboots of humanity after failed attempts to develop collective self-awareness. This is a long-term part of the path that humans experience in their human evolution from life to accumulate experience. Collective self-awareness cannot be possible without a strong individual attraction to becoming self-aware. This means that system of social rewards would have to be connected to self-awareness, knowledge, wisdom, and skills of accomplishment. From a philosophical viewpoint, that would mean that the truth, wisdom, and intelligence were personally chosen as one's guiding light or inner guidance. In order to facilitate that tendency of development, teachers are always available on the planet to provide that source of inspiration. No matter what the name of the teacher, the teachings are all basically the same: to live connected directly to your inner life in order to relate with intelligence of your eternal life. The kingdom of heaven is within. We often use words like love, compassion, acceptance of differences, forgiveness, etc., to describe these attributes. In addition to that, you will discover that these teachers all admonish becoming aware of what is outside your awareness. Seek, and you shall find. In contrast to all of this, you have religious institutions that seem to revolve around the proposed teaching of these individuals. In this, we have a parting of the paths that introduces the aspect of religion, all the possibilities to become self-aware in the knowing of the truth, or to be completely deluded about what the truth really is. This is what makes discussing religion so very complicated. It can always be intelligently discussed from many different levels of perception and oversight into the nature of the real universal truths. There is a distinct difference between personal truths and universal truths. It is also not possible to know the difference until that difference is within the grasp of your awareness. If what you presently believe to be true seems to be in conflict with what you are hearing from other sources, you have no concept or ability to judge where true north is on your compass before you examine the evidence yourself. That means risking the discovery that you have invested in the wrong truth, and that can be scary. The fact of the matter is that really good investors cut their losses immediately when they understand that their investment will not produce dividends. Bad investors hang on, believing that someday things will change and be okay again. The longer the wait, the longer the investment and the illusion, and the more difficult it is to let go of what you're hoping to change. That is an important lesson in life, learning when to let go. They say it's not the letting go that hurts, but the holding on. It kind of reminds me of a monkey trap I heard of, made of a bamboo jail with a ripe banana inside. The monkey can't get its hand out of the jail as long as it's holding on to the banana. This keeps the monkey trapped in the dilemma, and that means he loses his freedom. I think life presents us with a lot of these monkey traps, but there are no bananas inside, but other things we love to fall for. Religion can be just like one of those traps. I will never say that religion is not the path to salvation, whatever you might define that to be. That all depends on you. As far as I've looked, I found duality in everything, and that's what makes life so difficult to figure out before you figure out what duality really is. Religions are all inherently connected to the dualistic battle between good and evil. It's connected to the dualistic mythos of cultural entertainment all over the planet. The questions of duality are always surrounded by conflicts that never seem to get resolved. That's why we have wars for peace. It's my understanding that resolving these conflicts, by doing so, we can inherently resolve the conflicts between a religion and science, which in theory is supposed to be about knowing. The question we have to ask is, how do you connect something as subjective as good and evil to the realm of scientific understanding? This is how I resolve the conflict between science and religion. The human brain is split into two parts, the left and the right brain hemisphere, and there's a connection, and this connection is called the corpus callosum. It's a neural network, like a computer uses. Some people have little or no connections, some have a dial-up connection, some have a broadband connection, and some have fiber optics, speaking metaphorically. The nature of this network has to do with how you master diagonal processes between the left and the right brain hemispheres, because the right side controls the left side of the body and vice versa. When the right and the left side of the body do different but coordinated activities, this develops the neural network of the brain. There's a great potential for individual or collective evolutionary gain to be had by promoting or engaging in the development of skills that enhance diagonal activities. Touch typing, music instruments, two-handed controls for machinery, and even data games. Research shows that slow, rhythmic, diagonal movements associated with Tai Chi are exceptionally effective as a method for increasing, maintaining, or reinforcing the diagonal left right brain connections. Slow movements seem to promote neural development more than fast. This is, of course, by many perceived as a waste of time, because their minds are dominated by left brain association with linear time. The right brain hemisphere doesn't understand that. It understands only eternity. It is timeless. When it comes to cognitive activities, the left brain hemisphere is normally dominant, giving right hand dominance in the general population. Left brain cognition is a specialist at fragmentation, abstract thinking, rational thinking, math, language, sequence, and logic. Right brain cognition is a specialist at defragmentation, or relationships. This part deals with information that cannot be fragmented without losing its meaning. Sensory experience, emotion, simultaneous logic, timelessness, literal thinking, creativity, and systemic relationships belong to the right hemisphere cognition specialties. From the scientific knowledge we have of the brain, we can already begin to discover that not only has science been limited to left brain cognition, but that religion has been limited as well to exclude the rational part of the reality equation. Essentially, religion and science need each other just like the left and the right brain hemisphere of the brain need each other to become whole. Both institutions have thrown the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. This puts people like us talking about these things into a difficult position. The scientific community perceives this kind of information to be like New Age hogwash, and the religious community perceives this kind of information as sacrilegious profanity, as if we were defaming God, Christ, Muhammad, the Prophet, Allah, or whoever might else be insulted. Integrating science into religion, or the other way around, can only be done by integrating rational with irrational thinking, or sequential with simultaneous logic. We do need them both. We need to integrate our brains, our minds, our thinking, and our emotion, and it demands that the center of our command is from the heart. Without that heart connection, you are still hopelessly lost as a human. We cannot talk about religion in an intelligent way without talking about both of the aspects that are inherent within religion, and that is duality itself. In the same way, we cannot talk about science without talking about duality, but we end up just using different words that really mean the same thing. In science, there's a term called polarization. You can break down any energetic phenomenon into three state principles: right-hand spin, unpolarized spin, and left-hand spin. Science uses terms like high pressure, low pressure, expanding, contracting, constructive, destructive processes to relate to duality, not good and bad. All energy and movement, all development demands dualistic principles to drive them. Nothing has taught me more about the spiritual aspects of duality than understanding the hidden scientific knowledge about the nature of magnetism and electricity. First of all, electricity and magnetism are the same thing, but not the same thing. The difference is in spin direction and general movement. Like attracts like in true science. Electricity is incoming charge, and when the opposites meet at the 0 point, they create an expanding energetic force known as magnetism, moving in a left or right-hand twist. It's useful to know a little bit about vortex geometry before you can see that after the expansion mode, the energy comes into the contraction mode, known as electricity. A physical apple is a great representation of the vortex geometry in practical manifestation. Just cut the apple in half from the top to the bottom and notice that the core is devoid of mass. The core is usually empty because it's bringing in electrical charge from its north and south pole, and from the heart it is promoting magnetic energy for growth. The earth is made in a similar way. In everything, there is something a little hollow inside. That something comes from nothing in the law of creation. In physics, it's called plasma. Electricity in the contraction mode doesn't like to share its energy, it creates sparks. Magnetism, on the other hand, does like to share its energy with the environment, and all planets, stars, galaxies are interconnected through a sharing of these energies. People and trees pull in electric energy and they radiate magnetic energy. So whatever radiates magnetic energy, something else is going to pull in as electric energy. This is life. You cannot see this life, but it's still there. And today, science is beginning to be able to measure that magnetic energy in different ways. None of this is generally known to the uninformed public that mostly get their news from the TV. North and South Pole magnetism are not the same things. They are truly more important to life than anything else you can ever imagine. Magnetism affects your behavior and your mind. All magnetic principles have a triune of duality with the neutral in the middle. Understanding the concept of neutrality helps understand the concept of universal love and the respect for free will. North Pole magnetism is the masculine aspect, the dominant left brain hemisphere aspect of human personality and activity. It promotes discipline, strength, knowledge, speed, and general activity. South Pole magnetics are associated with the feminine aspect, the dominant right brain hemisphere aspect of personality and activity. This is nurturing energy. North and South Pole magnetics both have positive and negative aspects depending on the intent of the user. It's a huge advantage to understand that principle in order to understand and define good and evil for self and others. North Pole magnetics are great for making strong people and plants, but terrible for making babies or fruit. South Pole magnetics are great for making fruit sweet and juicy, but not for the human body because it promotes disease and bacteria, while North Pole magnetism promotes healing. As it says, there's a time and a place for everything, and that's also said in the Bible. Religious aspects of duality are concerned with defining good and evil. The best scientific understanding I can arrive at concerning this concept is to connect goodness with the aspect of love, defined as promoting long-term sustainability and vitality toward some hidden potential. I connect evil to the aspect of promoting long-term dependency and resistance of movement toward that hidden potential. It can and cannot directly be defined in the aspects of pain and pleasure. This is also generally confusing. Evil is not necessarily pain because it can be emotionally painful to be told you have been misled. It's sometimes painful to learn. And if you live with the belief that life should be painless, then you will discover that all pain will be considered as evil. And that's really a map that's not going to get you very far in the territory of life. It is not necessarily good to give you heroin to relieve your temporary pain if I provide you with long-term dependency and degraded health. Equally, cooperation is not good if it means that your cooperation involves creating long-term pain for others. This happens all the time in the competitive society. We cooperate together in teams to kill each other. This is long-term stupidity and basically evil. Science and religion meet in agreement when it concerns duality and competition. Scientifically speaking, we know that no living or non-living system can manifest optimal behavior or self-realization of that hidden potential if there's any form of resistance, hidden agenda, or friction called competition to the goal of vitality. Optimal conditions call for total cooperation from within and without the environment. Doesn't that sound something like heaven to you? What if good and evil, or duality as we call it, is all about competition and cooperation? One or the other. You see, this is not immediately obvious, and at the same time it's elusively in your face, so to speak. The scientific term for a perfect cooperative system can be found in the phenomena known as superconductors and scalar wave electromagnetic energy. Energy is in two-way flow. Always there's a return energy, and when you send energy out, just like a radar, you get a return. In religion, that's called karma. It's taken me many years to understand the nature of scalar waves. Most people have never heard of them. It has to do with the nature of competition or cooperation in wave propagation. If you think of two waves of energy meeting each other, each wave will have a right or left-hand twist relative to each other. Two drills could be mounted, each with their own spiral steel coil. It doesn't matter so much about the nature of the spiral, as long as they're the same, but the nature of the spin on the direction of the drill relative to the other, in combination with the opposite. One combination will result in both coils being sucked into each other, and the other will result in both coils fighting for dominance and having to avoid each other. This is like a good and a bad life, the way I see it. Since both coils want to move forward as their goal might be, they just need to agree to move in a manner that promotes each other instead of competing against. Wouldn't that be ultimate utopia? When it comes to thinking about religion and duality, we are way up in the stratosphere of philosophy, which is important when we consider what our intentions with religion really are, to discover the truth about the deeper nature of reality and a relationship with the Creator of you and all other forms of life on this and other places in the universe. We are, of course, concerned with identifying the nature of self, not only in science, religion, philosophy, or normal life. David Lynch and Alan Watts both say it very clearly when they call attention to the fact of the I-ness, the experiencer of life you called I. It is an unchanging entity in an ever-changing universe where everything else is spinning, rotating, and vibrating at high speed in one way or the other in an evolutionary cycle of experience. We have been trained to maintain stability in the physical universe through our will and control. This has been the foundation of our human meme, to dominate, conquer, and maintain control of our physical universe. As such, we have been taught to compete in almost everything we do, not realizing that we're engaging in a form of activity that is destructive, not only to ourselves, but the rest of the environment. Most people have been spinning each their own separate way, considering immediately low-level, short-term considerations and goals. As such, we are moving against each other as we collide in the collective competition for money, in society as the rewarding factor we have chosen to use. Those that are best at competition are given the highest rewards. It's like saying that the most powerful drill gets it all. The idea here is that no single entity on this planet needs it all. But still, we all want vitality for self. So why not for others at the same time? That's a win-win obligation. I ask a simple question. Is the monkey starving to death and being tortured simply because it has never learned to let go? What would it take for humanity to let go and start to cooperate together? This, I believe, is the true message of any and all true spiritual teachers. It is from these teachings we have created religion. And with that, I would like to tell a little story that was written by Richard Bach in his book Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. I do not have the book at hand, so I'll have to tell it from the way I remember it. The context of this story is that Richard Bach has created a figure called the Reluctant Messiah. He's really a car mechanic that has gone to a Messiah school. He has a Messiah handbook, and he's been working in this garage for a long time, and he really likes to fly. That's his hobby. But usually, he's outside of the garage talking to the people at a certain time during the day or during the week, and the same people listen, and the same people come every day. And he got kind of tired of doing that because nothing was happening. So he said, "This is the last time I'm going to be talking to you. I am going to be leaving on a long trip. I do not know if I'm coming back. I want to fly. It's my time now. I need to fill up my batteries." And one of the people in the crowd waved his hand and said, "Yeah, you can do that because you're a Messiah. You can do anything you want, but we have to work for a living." And he said, "That reminds me of a story. Once upon a time, there was a wonderful, crystal clear river, and in that river, there were beings that were alive. And just like you and I, there were all sorts of different beings, and they had their lives down at the bottom of this river, and one thing that they did collectively was that they were hanging on to the branches and the stones at the bottom of the river to stand against the current. They were afraid to be swept away. And one of the beings in the river said, "I'm so tired of this. I'm so tired of this holding on. It's boring. I think this current has a meaning. There's a reason for it, and I want to let go." And all the other people around said, "Oh, you can't do that. I mean, if you let go, you're going to be bashed to pieces. I mean, how are you going to survive? And this is dangerous stuff. You can't do that. If you continue doing that, we're going to call a psychiatrist. I mean, you need some pills." But anyway, in the middle of the night, this being said, "I'm tired of holding on. I ain't going to do it anymore." And he let go. And what happened? After a couple of branches on the way up to the surface, came up to the surface and was floating clear in the current, looking down at all that stuff that everyone was hanging on to. And it was a great trip. It was a wonderful view. And as he traveled in the current, he came by another town pretty much like where he came from, and the people looked up and they said, "Wow, someone like us, but this one is up there. Must be a Messiah that's come to save us." And he said, "Oh, no way. I haven't come to save you. Just let go of the branches and the twigs and all the stones and go with the current." And of course they could not understand or comprehend that he was just telling the simple truth. So they went into their chapels and their churches and everything and had meetings, and the congregation could not figure out what it meant.